Okay, welcome. Okay, so officially we're starting our class today about learning about verb patterns. Now, it's not only focused on verb patterns, but other ways in which we use the ing and the to with verbs, blah, blah, blah. So there's a lot of information for today, so you might want a notebook and a pen. So that we can keep track of everything. So, or you can always watch the video again and again and again. Let me just, oh, what happened? Oh, one moment, slide one. This is the one I want. I have so many things that I could share with you all, but obviously I'm not going to. So, perfect. Looks like you can see this now, so that's really good. All right, and so basically verb patterns. What are we talking about? What is this? The main part here is that we're going to be talking about gerunds and infinitives. Okay, so gerunds are the ones with the ing endings in this example so you can see that. And infinitives is when we use to with the base verb. So the infinitive is really to plus verb. Okay, and then as I said, the gerunds are the verb and then ing. Okay, so is this clear so far? I mean, if you that's the most important part of this class today.
Yes.
Perfect. Thank you. So what we're doing here is verb patterns are a little bit different. We will see some of them today. And so let me just say verb patterns are when we have two verbs together more or less. I like dancing. I like to dance. Both of those have the same meaning. Okay, and so with the verb like, that first verb normally tells us what the next verb should be, which form the next verb should be in. Like I said, we'll see some of these today, and even on this page, there are some. So I just want to introduce this idea first. It's very complicated, but you must have two verbs. For example, I like chocolate. Oh, I spelled chocolate wrong. Chocolate. That was my finger that hit the G. Sorry. So I like chocolate. There's only one verb in this sentence, and so we don't have a verb pattern situation. We only have a present simple sentence. I like chocolate. Okay. So again, to really reinforce this, to have a verb pattern, we need two verbs together. Okay. Now, here comes the most difficult part. Ken, why don't you read the examples for the gerunds, please?
Okay. After preps, I gave up smoking last year. And number two, subject to sentence can be fun. Number three, after some verbs, for example, mind, suggest, I don't mind helping you.
Okay, very good. So just going to move this like this. So as it says gerund, so after any kind of prepositions, I gave up smoking. Okay, this happens a lot in this case. Okay, I gave up. I woke up singing, for example. Maybe you were dreaming about singing at a concert and you woke up singing. I don't know. But this is the general structure. So after prepositions, very important. This, I want to also specify that this verb with ing does not mean it's in the present continuous. I am talking, you are listening, they are singing. It is not that verb tense. It's strictly structure, okay? That's all this is. Questions? No questions. Okay.
Case is most difficult.
This one's the most difficult, you think?
Yeah, because we need to remember the verb itself to to be followed by gerund.
Yes.
Like mind and subject.
Exactly. Yeah, these are a little bit more difficult. But this one, for example, I gave up, also gave up as a phrasal verb. So this is a very complicated structure right here. So we have a phrasal verb, subject, phrasal verb, second verb, and then we have a time clause of last year. And so this last year indicates past. And so our verb, our main verb of this sentence is in the past tense, gave up, because it's give, gave, given. Okay. So this is very technical today, which I love. Any other questions with this about prepositions? No? Okay. Move. Ken, did you have a question?
No, from me, thank you.
Okay. So this next one is the subject of a sentence. It basically means the verb is the subject. Okay, so learning is our verb. I'm not saying he is learning English. That's not even, that's the present continuous tense. He is learning English. We're not using a person in this case. There's no person in this sentence. And so because there's not an actual subject who's human, we use the verb as the subject. And so when that happens, we use the verb with ing. Again, it's just a structural sentence. It has nothing to do with the present tense now or anything like that. It's a general statement of learning English can be fun. Depends on the day, probably. So, all right. Does that make sense? Any questions about this?
No.
Okay. Now, this part 3 is an actual verb pattern. So, okay. If I look, it says after some verbs like mind, suggest, there's a whole list. A long, long, long list.
Yes.
Of these. So basically, yes, as Ken says, you have to memorize these verbs. And actually, if I say verb pattern list. Okay, you do see that actually. Well, maybe I'll do that at the end of class, but I'm not sharing this. So I don't need to, what is it? Give people, I'm not trying to advertise any other websites here. So anyway, so I don't mind helping you. So we have mind, as I said, we have mind and help as verbs in this sentence. And what we're doing is the first verb, mind, is going to indicate if we need to use it with the ing or to form later. Now, again, this is all memorized. This is memorization. Some really good ways to help you memorize these sentences is realize or understand which verbs go with the gerund and which verbs go with the infinitive. Okay, that's step 1. Step 2 is, if possible, have someone who's native or has a higher level than you, hopefully, correct those, just to be sure. Of course, in English, there are many exceptions, okay? Now, the other step is to actually learning these. Instead of trying to memorize the actual list, just write sentences and read them. All you have to do is read them. Okay, so before you go to bed or, after lunch, you're waiting to do something, just read the list out loud, okay, because it will stay in your head. And the more often you do this, the easier it will be for you to remember, because it will sound good to you. You might not remember why it sounds good, but it will, because you've heard it so many times, okay? So again, repetition is the key here to remembering these. Any questions or even other suggestions? How have you done this? Any comments?
Also, solving drills.
I'm sorry?
About this part. Solving drills. Questions.
Well, just to help you memorize the verb patterns, I mean, the real verb patterns. The other two, after prepositions and when the verb is a subject, is understandable. Those are just certain situations.
Mhm.
But to remember that if you have I don't mind and then another verb, it's easiest, in my opinion, to just repeat a sentence multiple times.
Mhm.
Have you, Ken, do you have any experience in this area?
Yeah, because before I take a test in the TOEFL exam, this kind of question is necessary to remember. So I
Mm-hmm.
solve a lot of drills. Not only that, but also other grammatical things.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, yeah.
Definitely. This is
So,
one of those difficult ones.
mhm.
So I'd say phrasal verbs, verb patterns, and probably prepositions are the three most difficult, and we have all of those here. So little by little today. All right, if we don't have any other questions, then Alex, would you like to read the infinitive sentences, please?
Okay. First, after adjectives. It's difficult to study every day. Second, in order to. Why? I went to shops to buy food. Third, after some verbs, for example, decides, needs. I decided to take a walk.
Very good. Okay, so again, very specific times. After adjectives, it's difficult to study. It's easy to study. Something like that. Any adjective. And we have it, which is also another complicated topic because it refers to the subject of or to the situation of studying every day. Okay? Um and then, so it's difficult to study every day, and that's it. Now, if we wanted, we could change this sentence into this kind of a sentence by saying studying is difficult every day. Okay? So we can also say studying with the ing because then it would be the subject of a sentence. Studying is difficult every day. Okay? In the second one, in order to, okay, I went to the shops to buy food. So we're using it here, okay? What are you doing? Why are you going to the shops? To buy food. Okay, so that's what they're talking about here. Now, this to goes with this verb because it's the infinitive. This to is the other type of to that exists. This is the preposition that we use when we are moving. It represents movement. So I'm going from my house to the shop. I'm going from work to the shop. Okay? And we always say go to. If it's traveling, if it's a place in the town, something like that. This is called a collocation. Collocation. And collocations basically mean we use this word with this one, and that's it. So, for example, we do the dishes, but we make, one second, the bed. Okay. And so these are also different types of collocations with make and do. Okay. Basically, when someone says it's just the way it is, it's because someone, the person who invented English, said, no, it must be this way. And that's it. There's nothing else. So again, that's why English is quite difficult. There's thousands and millions probably of collocations, different types, etc. And go to is one of those. Okay, so we can see that here. Any questions with anything I've said up until this point? So far, no. That's good. All right. So then I'm going to move on to number 3 in the infinitive. Again, this is the verb pattern. With decide, need, want, we have to use to. Okay, that's just the verb pattern structure. Now, if I say I decided On going to Paris. To decide on. Decide on is a phrasal verb. It's a verb plus a preposition. Now what happens to the sentence? We have the preposition on, and then we have to use the verb go plus ing. And then here we have that movement preposition again, to. So there's a lot going on in these sentences when you really look at each part, right? So Ken or Alex, any comments or questions? Are we confused? Are we okay?
Decided on, and how about if I say I decided to go to Paris?
Yeah, that's fine. Decided to go to Paris is perfectly fine too.
So the same meaning?
Basically, and this happens in English too sometimes, where there's a difference or there's really no difference between just the normal verb and a verb with a preposition. So I'm just going I think it's there could be a tiny bit of a difference, like I said, for any of these. Okay. Was it ask or ask for? I asked. No, you need ask for. Let me just take a look at something here very quickly. I think it's one of those that you can use or not use, and sometimes it's correct and sometimes it's incorrect. I think it's when you have like a second part. Have to the same as verb pattern. I'll answer that question in a second, Alex. Good question. Is decided on. I think it's when you have something to decide on. Do you know what I mean? It's not, I decided to go for a walk. That's okay. I don't know how to explain this right now. I just wanted a different example to change the structure of the sentence, and now I'm more confused than I was before. So great. Besides something was decided for. Let's see. I'm still trying. Okay, I've decided to do about it. I don't know, Ken. I'm gonna say no for. I don't know at the moment. I think it's to do something. You choose to do something. That's kind of what I can say for that. And Alex, as far as have to is a modal verb. It is basically the same as must, but a little different. Okay? Has a tiny bit less maybe strength or percentage of doing something. But in general, it's a modal verb. So I have to study or I must study. Okay, the structure with have to is you have to use to, and with must you don't. It's very similar to should and ought to. Should and ought to are exactly the same. Like I said, have to and must are a little tiny different. However, when trying to use must in the past, we have to use had to. We can't say must in the past, as it's just a phrasal verb. A modal verb, and it doesn't have any tense to it. It just tells you the possibility of something happening. Alex, does that make sense, or do you have any questions with that?
Yes, makes sense, but I have only one question. But after all modal verbs, we use another verbs on infinitive.
Correct. Well, the infinitive without to mainly. There are some have to, need to, and ought to, I believe, are the only ones that need to after. Because have to and need to are also normal verbs. I have a cat. I need water, for example. Okay, so those are normal verbs too. So there is a difference. With modal verbs, I like to explain them as a percentage of possibility. That something will happen or you can do something. I can go to the party. Okay, it's possible. I can. I might go to the party. You're not sure if you're going to, but it's still possible. I will go to the party is that you're definitely going. And so with the change of the the modal verb, it changes that possibility. Okay. Any other questions, Alex? Okay, well, you're mute. No, okay, thank you. I was listening for a response. That's fine. Great. Well, let's move down here. All right.
May I ask a question?
I'm sorry?
May I ask a question?
Yeah?
Yes. And if I write like this, I must have done this work. So is not correct? Or to express past?
Yes, this is to express the past tense. It's called a modal perfect. Because really what you have here is have plus a past participle, which represents the perfect tense. In this case, you have a modal first, and we have to use the modal plus the base verb. So the structure is perfect. I must have done this work. Yes, it represents the past. Of course, we need more information for it to be complete. We use this in the third conditional as well.
Yeah.
Okay. If I had studied, I would have passed my test. Okay. So basically, you're saying if I had studied, but I didn't study, I would have passed my test. So basically, the sentence is you didn't pass your test and you're kind of feeling like, oh, I should have studied. Okay, any other questions with that?
No, thank you.
Perfect. So if we look at this slide now, it says, did you know? Hate, love, nope, hate, like, love. Okay. Bye, Alex. Hate, like, love, prefer, and continue can be used with both the gerund and infinitive. They have a very close meaning. With some of these, some of the verbs, if you use them in the gerund or the infinitive, they have different meanings. And so you do have to be careful with some. All right, so we have some that are the same, like I said before, that I like dancing, I like to dance. And then we have other ones that use the same verb, and then depending on the gerund or the infinitive, have completely different meanings. All right. In this case, like my example was with like, okay, it's basically the same. To me, there's really no difference. I believe out there in the world, someone has said that there is a difference. I don't think there is. All right. I hate to dance. I hate dancing. The only thing that I'm going to say about that is that it's more probable to hear I hate dancing, because if not, I hate to dance, we have a lot of hard sounds, and which makes it more difficult to speak with, fluidity. So I hate dancing. I hate dancing. Hate dancing. And I'm not even really pronouncing this T. Is a lot easier to pronounce than I hate dancing. I hate to dance, sorry. I hate to dance. Questions with that?
So these verbs are true and infinitive or gerund. Both are possible?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
And it's okay. Yeah. I mean, I love dancing. I love to dance. It's the same. I prefer singing. I prefer to sing.
Okay.
Continue. I've never really used continue with this. So I continue. I'm going to continue to dance. I'm going to continue dancing. Again, I think dancing is easier just because continue is a long word.
So the meaning is same. Meaning is same.
Yes.
Okay.
In other cases, they're different. And also there, I'd like to add begin is also, and I think start, but I think hate, like, and love are probably the most common and I prefer. All right. Any other questions at this slide?
No, thank you.
Okay. And these are the ones with a different meaning. Okay, so we're first going to look at the verb stop. All right. So Ken, I'd like you to read until in order to eat. Okay.
Okay. Stop plus gerund equals to stop a process. I stopped eating too many carbohydrates equal to I gave up. Stop plus to plus infinitive equals to in order to. I stopped to have sandwich equal I stopped what I was doing in order to eat.
All right, so take a look at that again. I know you were reading, and sometimes we don't always understand everything when we're reading.
I gave up. I stopped what I was doing.
Do you have any questions?
I stopped to have some. So I stopped have a sandwich also means I stopped eating a sandwich.
Sure. I stopped eating. It means that you were eating a sandwich and then you said, well, wait, which one?
Second
The
sentence.
second one?
I stopped
Yes.
to have sandwich.
Basically, maybe you were walking and you thought, hey, I'm hungry. I'm going to stop and eat a sandwich here. So you sit down at the park and you have a sandwich. It's physically stop. And then the first one is I stopped eating means you also stopped as well, but it's not a physical. It's more of a mental. Okay.
Yeah, kind of habit. Eating habit. Yeah.
Exactly. Well, I think I don't know if I did this one the other day, but we do, for example, I stopped smoking or I stopped to smoke. Did we talk about this the other day?
Maybe I remember that.
And so, what are the differences? Because again, we have the same subject, the same verb, and the same verb tense, but after we have the verb in the ing form or in the infinitive with to form, they have different meanings.
Maybe I stopped smoking, which means the person stopped smoking habit. And I stopped to smoke, which means the person stopped to smoke right now.
Yes. It means to smoke is physically stopped. They physically stopped to smoke a cigarette. So yes, very big differences. One is the habit and the other one's physical. And so that's this. These are the most difficult ones. I want to say there's probably 6 verbs like this. Okay. So why don't you read the other ones about forget, okay?
Okay, forget. Forget plus gerund equal a past memory. I'll never forget meeting my first ever teacher. Forget plus infinitive equal you need to do something in the future. Don't forget to lock the door when you leave.
Okay. So again, kind of the gerund in this case is the past memory. Oh, I'll never forget meeting my first teacher. Oh. Okay. So you're remembering something. And then in the second one, forget with the infinitive, it's for the future. So one of the tricks that students have come up with over the years is that the gerund is more for the past and the infinitive is more for the future. Okay, and that kind of, we can understand that with the verb stop as well. I stopped eating in the past, your habit in the past. And then also, I stopped to have a sandwich. I mean, in that moment, you stopped to eat a sandwich, which is going to be in your very near future. So you can kind of make sense of it like that. Okay, it is complicated, and I think some situations are extremely complicated. So, any other questions with this?
No, thank you.
All right. So, moving down, some more. We have regret. Could you read those examples, please?
Regret plus gerund equal something in the past. I regret not taking that first job offer. Regret plus infinitive equal something in the present. I regret to inform you your application has not been successful.
Okay. So, same thing. I mean, in the first one with the gerund, it's referring to the past. And then in the second one with the infinitive, so this is more in the present. So it might not be the future, but it's also not the past either. Okay. This I regret to inform you is very formal. It's for letters and things like that. Formal letters. Okay.
Yeah.
Do you have any questions about that?
No, thank you.
All right. And what about keep? Can you read the examples with keep?
Keep plus gerund equal continue a process. I keep watching the same old movies. Keep plus object plus to plus infinitive equal in order to. I kept his book to read later.
Okay. So again, the gerund is a continuing process. So again, you began that in the past, probably. So again, I'm just trying to find the connection here with the past because it normally kind of works. All right. And then the other one is in order to, it's to do something later. As you can see, in this case, it's for the future, not now. Okay. Does that make sense? Do you have any questions?
No.
All right. I'm hoping this is everything's good. And now need and try. All right. So whenever you're ready, you can read with need.
Okay. Need plus gerund equal used in the passive form. My hair needs doing. Need plus infinitive equal used in the active form. I need to do my hair.
So this is completely different now. So the past and the present really, or past, present, future, whatever you want to use, doesn't really work here. My hair needs doing. So that's the passive. And I'm actually needs doing. I actually don't see the passive form in here. The passive is with the verb to be plus
Yes.
the verb.
It's not like passive to me.
Yeah, I know. Okay. Okay. One moment. Okay, the express passive meanings. It's not the form. Okay. That's what they're talking about here. And this also happens with the verb want. I saw it on a website. I don't like the example with want, but maybe I can send this to you, Ken. So yes, it needs doing. My hair needs to be done. I don't know. This I don't like need in this form. I think this is really almost too native. Do you know what I mean? It's almost too much. So I would say maybe not use this if you don't have a lot of experience with the language. And Ken, I know you do, but I mean, if you say this to someone, they're not going to understand either. It's not going to make sense to them. And so you have to think about that too, who you're talking to and what you're doing. But I think it's a little too informal to use for a lot of the natives, or for a lot of the second language speakers of English, or third or fourth. So it's a very basic form. Let's say we'll use it for natives. And then this one, I need to do my hair, is, as I said before, need to is a modal verb as well. There's a big possibility that I need to do this and then do. So, okay. Questions?
Yeah, I understand the meaning, but yeah, I don't think the form itself is not passive. Yes.
Right. No, the actual sentence is not in the passive form, but it's meant to be used with that same meaning. So yeah, it is complicated. All right, well, let's go on to try. Like I said, I don't think we need to waste more time on need because I don't think it's really necessary. This one, yes, is important. Okay. All right, good. So when you're ready, read about try.
Good. Try plus gerund equal an experiment. Why don't you try watching that news, the TV series I told you about? Try plus infinitive equal make an effort. Why don't you try to do a little bit every day?
Okay, I'm waiting for this to digest in your head. Do you have any questions?
Experiment not used. Don't you try to do a little effort? Yeah, I understand the meaning. Yes.
Okay. So
Also,
yeah.
I have one question. I heard why don't we is politer than why don't you?
Of course, I mean, when you add yourself with the other person, it's not saying you should do something, but we. Do you know what I mean? I remember one time, I don't know if my husband's going to like this, but he was at a doctor's appointment and the doctor said, hey, we should lose weight, saying that not only my husband, but actually the own doctor himself was overweight too and said that he needed to lose weight. Now, my husband's not that overweight at all by any means, but of course, who shouldn't, a lot of people need to lose weight. So, but he said it that way, even in Spanish on top of it. So I think in general, it's just a nice form of saying, not directing it, giving it 100% to you. If you add another person, you're both 50-50. Do you know what I mean?
Oh, yes.
So yeah, so it is a nice way of saying it. Okay.
Okay.
And then here with try as well, to make an effort. Why don't you try doing a little bit every day is also okay in my, why don't you try doing a little bit every day? I've just used the do plus ing. It can also be used as an experiment. Why don't you try to do a little bit every day? It gives you a little bit more, so it's a little bit more, what's the word? I don't know what to say exactly, but, do it yourself, All right. Anyway, so that's that. Let's move on. And we're going to talk about, oops. These. All right. So Ken, as you're the only student here, right? You're still the only one? Yes, you are. Lucky for you. You get to work on this. Do you want to read the sentence and answer, or do you want me to read so you can think? What do you prefer?
Yeah, I can read.
Okay.
Okay. I stopped eating too much at weekends.
Is this a true statement for you, Ken, or?
Nowadays I don't eat so much. Yeah, too much.
Okay.
I mean, yeah.
So maybe you stopped eating a lot in general. In the same structure, that's good. Okay, what about number 2?
Okay. I know it's boring, but why don't you try reading? I think try reading. Try to read. try to read more educational books. Why don't you try to read? Try and read. Try reading. No, I lost.
Okay. I honestly think, just like in the example that we had seen above, I think in this last one, you can do both. It
Yeah.
has a tiny, tiny different meaning of it's either an experiment or make an effort. Either try it out, see if it works, see if you like it, the experiment, or actually try and make time for it during the day and to make an effort. Okay.
Okay.
Honestly, I think this is supposed to be the gerund. I know it's boring, but why don't you try reading more educational books? But it also could be saying, hey, make an effort and read more educational books. So then we'd have why don't you try to read?
I see.
So really both of them are fine. It just depends on your intonation. Your intention is the word I was looking for. Okay.
Okay.
All right. Whew, good. Okay. So number 3.
My house needs painting.
Why can't you say my house needs to paint?
Because it's similar structure. My hair needs doing.
Okay. And also because your house can't actually paint something. It doesn't, it's not alive. So we can't use it in the active tense. All right. And what about regret?
Okay, I regret to inform you that your blood pressure is extremely low.
Okay, very good. Yes, and this is the more formal way of this as well. And obviously, maybe you're speaking with a doctor at this point. Okay. And then what about the last one, number 5?
Okay, I just can't forget being with her. I think I'm in love.
Okay. And why did you choose that?
Because forget gerund. Also, it's about memory. So
Exactly. It's in the past.
yes.
So good. And then, so now we're going to decide why we're using the sentence with the gerund and the infinitive. So before it was conjugating for the correct meaning, and now it's explaining a little bit more. Okay. So number 1, you can read this as well. Okay.
Okay. I stopped to say hello to my neighbor. To stop doing something in order to. This is using.
Are
Stop
you
to say
sure?
hello. Huh? Sorry?
Are you? You don't sound very convinced. Can I help you?
I think in order to. Number 1 is for in order to.
I kind of like the in order to as well, just because I stopped to say hello. Now you're physically stopping, but it's not like a habit. You stopped doing something is more of a habit. I stopped smoking, for example. What's the habit? So in order to, I stopped to say hello. Oh, hey neighbor.
Right.
Okay. So I like in order to. What about number 2?
I'm going to try taking up painting. An experiment. Make an effort. I'm going to try taking up. I think effort. Make an effort.
I'm actually going to say I think it's an experiment.
Experiment. Okay.
Because make an effort is with the 2. I'm going to try to take. Wait.
I see.
Wait. Yeah. To try to take up painting is make an effort. You're going to look for time to paint. Now, in this sentence, we see a lot of INGs, don't we? I'm going because this is the what verb tense?
A gerund.
Yep, this alone technically is just the present continuous, but when we add the to, it's be going to. Okay. Now, because we have the verb in the infinitive form, as is the structure for be going to, we have try taking because it represents an experiment. Now, taking up, the phrasal verb taking up is used for starting something new. Okay, to take a new course or something like that. And now we have painting because it's after a preposition.
Okay.
So lots of INGs in the sentence, but all of them make sense. And the last two, taking and painting, are only because of the structure. Okay? So taking is because of try, and painting is because of up.
Okay.
All right, any questions with that?
No, thank you.
Okay. What about number 3?
I regret lending that money for my friend's new business. It's complete failure. An action in the past, an action in the past.
An action in the present and action in
Present,
the past.
present and past. I regret lending that money for my friend's new business. It's a complete failure. Past.
Exactly. Okay. And I'm trying to think of the verb tenses, the 3 columns of regret. I regret going. Regret, I have regretted. I'm trying to think if maybe in the present and past tense. Regret, conjugation. Regret. Oh. All right, one second. I can't think of I regret. So regret and regret are the first. Let's see. This is the present. This is, I mean, this continuous, present continuous, examples. Why is this so difficult today? I think it's the allergies. My allergies are pretty bad today. Regretted is in the past tense. Perfect. No, I don't want to see that. Continuous. Here it is. Regretted. Interesting. I regretted. Okay, well, what the biggest thing here is that regret, even though it's in the present tense, the action that you gave money to your friend is in the past, and that's why it's a past action.
Yes.
Okay, perfect. Sorry, that took me a lot longer to explain than I thought. So what about number 4?
Tell him not to forget to meet us on time. He always late. And then necessity A.
Okay, why?
Because it's order form, so kind of just in case this person, so this kind of thing.
Yep, exactly. No, he's normally late, so, or he's always late. So maybe you have to go to a concert, you have to be there on time.
Right.
All right, any questions with this?
No.
Okay. Well, then I'm going to stop screen sharing because we are about finished. And what I'm going to do is copy and paste verbs and prepositions. No, that wasn't it. One moment, please. Okay, it's in the other one here. The verb patterns and gerunds, just so that you have a list. Sure, this one. Okay, so this one has more things here that than we've seen today in class. So copy and paste this. Don't just click on it because you will leave this, even though we're going to finish right now. You want to be for the end. So take a look at that. That is more information, more in depth. Today was just basically an introduction. So with that, we're finished. And on Wednesday, we're going to be talking about myths about business. Okay, when you go to start a new business, people tell you something, but really it's not true. So we're going to look at those. Okay.
Yes, and maybe time is still the time is different, but regular time on Wednesday, 10 p.m. Okay.
Okay. Well, yeah. No, normal time is always. Well, in Spain, 1 o'clock on Mondays and 3 o'clock on Wednesdays.
Okay. Yes.
Okay, perfect. Well, very good. So you have a great day, and I'll see you on Wednesday, okay?
Have a nice day. Bye.
All right. Bye.
Bye.